Hey people of the VC, it's Andy Cloudy Mulder. Yes, the Mulder is back by popular demand. Um, I was just looking through some of the videos and noticed that I hadn't done a collection update video for about 2.5 months, which is way too long. Especially as these are the videos I think I enjoy doing the most, and it's the ones that most people seem to view when they come to my channel. So I have seriously neglected my job in this department. So over the next few weeks, I aim to rectify that. I have this is my inbox, and so that's the records I've not shown yet. The '80s records I've not shown yet that I've picked up over. I mean, that's months worth. That's not like some of you guys. That's not like a daily trip. But yeah, I'm seriously behind. So I think the next few weeks I'm going to try and catch up because I've got a little bit of reorganizing I need to do around and about, and I need to get these out of the inbox and onto the shelves. And I'm coming up to 500 subs. It'll probably take me a couple of months to get there. But as and when I do, I kind of want to do a little mini room tour, and it will be a mini room tour. I've only got a small corner of space that's my musical heaven here, but I haven't shared it yet, so I think I'm overdue one of those. But let's show you some records that I have been listening to recently. The first one is surprise, surprise, it's a Music for Nations release. But what is perhaps more surprising is it's a UK band on Music for Nations. So Music for Nations was kind of originally set up to, and they distributed a lot of US metal in the UK, and that's how I got to hear of a lot of bands. You know, Metallica, Anthrax were all on Music for Nations. But Battleaxe were a new wave of British heavy metal band, and this was their debut album on Music for Nations. I think it was the first UK band to get a debut release on Music for Nations. Tank was a previous release on MFN, but they were already an established band by then. Battleaxe are very much in the sort of Raven Tank Motorhead bucket. Standard Music for Nations label, plain in a sleeve, killer artwork. So Battleaxe were from Newcastle. I recently just went to Newcastle, and this burning city here must be Newcastle because there's the Tyne Bridge. You probably can't make it out, but the Tyne Bridge is just in the background there and it's on fire. But I'm pleased to announce that when I went last weekend, it's taken them the best part of 40 years, but Newcastle has been rebuilt. A very, very cheesy cover, but now it's a brilliant cover. It screams heavy metal, and this is a really good album. I really like it. Yeah, as I say, very much in the Raven Tank wheelhouse. Good stuff. So that's the first one. Next up, we're going to go a little bit. It's another Music Relations actually, but it's more on the melodic side. So this is Alaska with The Pack. Yeah, this is more melodic AOR style hard rock. It's really hit and miss. The hits, I wouldn't even say the hits are hits. The hits are good. The misses are spectacular. I mean, they have. I think any hard rock album that has saxophone on is a miss. So this kind of goes up and down. Some of the songs are really good, you get into them, and then other songs they hit you big with the sax. Alaska has Bernie Marsden of Whitesnake fame. It's an okay album. This one comes in actually. Just from what I just said, 1985, 1985. There's a nice little collage. Yeah, of the band and lyrics. And this album, incidentally, I asked this on my Facebook page, but this still has the shrink on it, but it only has the shrink on it because the shrink appears to be stuck, and there's a difference between glossy cover and where it's been stuck. So if anyone has any handy tips on how to remove old shrink without destroying the album cover, I'm all ears. I will leave it on if I have to, but it just looks scruffy, and I'd rather take it off if I can and preserve the cover underneath. But yeah, if you like sort of melodic AOR style rock, this may well be for you. It's not so much for me, but it's, as I say, it's on the Music for Nations label, so it's part of the collection. Number 3 for today. Oh no, this is a great one. So believe it or not, I've never been that familiar with Lizzie Borden. But I picked up the live album, the Murderous Metal Roadshow. It's a double album. So this is from 1986. This is a Netherlands copy on Roadrunner, and yeah, this is amazing. So I wasn't really familiar with Lizzie Borden before. They're a band that's kind of passed me by. I don't see any of their stuff in the wild, so when I saw this, I thought I'd grab it. I do like live albums, but it's been a long time since I listened to a live album and thought, wow, that is a really, really good live album. It's just phenomenal. I just can't get enough of it. When I first bought it, I just played it over and over again. We have the inner sleeves with pictures of the show and lyrics. As I mentioned, it's a live album, so should have the same. Yeah, I'll do it as well. And, lyrics, but it's just, the sound on this is really, really good. There's a Roadrunner on the label, and just also so I think you've got to get the blend of the crowd and the band kind of perfectly in tune with each other to make a really good live album. I think they did it on this album. As I say, it's one of the best live albums I've picked up in a very long time. So yeah, 1986, Lizzie Borden, the Murderous Metal Roadshow. Now this was a surprise. So this is an 80s update, but as I've said before, my 80s kind of go from very, very late 70s to early 90s, and what we have here is Metal Church, The Human Factor. Now I was really surprised when I saw this in my local record shop. Metal Church albums on record are hard enough to come by, but to find one from 1991, and I'd never heard this album before, and it's a really good, solid Metal Church album. Mike Howe on vocals. It's clearly a 90s release because they've kind of cut back on the packaging, plain white sleeve, and the lyrics are actually on the back of the album rather than on any inner sleeve. But yeah, pretty special find. Very, very stoked to have picked that one up. I still need the debut album on record as well. That would be a great one to have. A bit of a grail at the moment because it's proven very difficult to find. But yeah, it's great to see that in 1991 they were producing music of this quality. I certainly didn't. I wasn't looking for it at the time, I have to admit, but glad I found this now and have become acquainted with it since. Yeah, just a epic, plain, boring, epic label. Going the other way from post 80s to pre 80s, and I found a copy of Motorhead's On Parole. This is a copy from 1979 on Liberty Records. Now this is an interesting album, more of a nice to have in the collection than a great album. So this was intended to be Motorhead's first album in 1976, but Universal Artists, who they were signed to at the time, withheld the release because I don't think they thought it was good enough, or they didn't think it was worth releasing. But 3 years later, after the success of the first two albums, they decided to cash in and release it. But by this time, the Motorhead had moved on, and the sound on here isn't the Motorhead that you would expect in terms of sort of quality and energy. Guitarist on here is Larry Wallace, and he was obviously replaced by Fast Eddie Clarke for the official first two albums. And I think Eddie Clarke kind of defined the Motorhead sound along with Lemmy. And so this, as I say, sounds very different. There's two tracks on here that Larry Wallace actually sings lead on, which is Vibrator and The Fools, and it just sounds so weird to hear somebody else singing on a Motorhead album. So nice collection piece, but not what you would class a classic Motorhead album. And for those people that say, you know, a lot of Motorhead stuff sounds the same, well, this doesn't, not at all. But there's a few songs on there you might recognise which were kind of done on the first album, and but they were done better, sound much better. So we go, Motorhead, On Parole, 1979, Cash In by the record companies. Another debut album now from someone that had been around for a long time. So this is the Michael Schenker Group self-titled debut album. It's not in very good condition at all. A little bit of ring wear, excessive edge wear. The B-side doesn't even have a label on it. But I picked this up super cheap. I think it only cost me a couple of pounds. And I only bought it. Well, I does have the inner sleeve is actually in the best condition of the album. The lyrics on it plays okay. It's VG though, definitely a few scuffs and things on it. And I really only picked it up because I wanted to hear it. This is an album I used to see everywhere, absolutely everywhere, and it's one of those ones that I would get round to getting. But then slowly but surely it didn't seem to be around anymore. And then when I saw this one for just £2, I snatched it up, and it will do me until I can find a better copy. And if I did find a better copy, I would snap that up as well, and then pass this on. It's a really good album. I'm late to the party for the whole Michael Schenker group, but absolutely love it now, and love going back and discovering albums that I missed first time around. Excuse me. So that was 1980. From straight up metal to, actually this wasn't going to be in my list. So I showed this in the last update video, but in the last Newcastle Hall video, I picked this up 2 weeks ago. One of the newer albums I've got in my collection, but I've played it a couple of times because it's really good. So Alcatraz was basically Graham Bonnet's band after he was fired by Rainbow and MSG and everybody. His first album, he had Yngwie Malmsteen as the guitarist on it. So Graham Bonnet was used to working with the likes of Richie Blackmore and Michael Schenker. So when he put together a band, he needed a strong guitarist. So he picked Yngwie Malmsteen for the first one. But apparently he was a bit too strong, lots of overpowering personalities. And he was replaced on this album by Steve Vai. And Steve Vai, I think, has always been a better band guitarist than Malmsteen. Obviously, Malmsteen needs the limelight, demands the limelight, and probably deservedly so. But this is what, 1985, but the band still looks sort of very late 70s. Certainly Graham Bonnet, he very much had his own style of metal, but I love him as a vocalist. Really like his stuff. I used to hate his stuff with Rainbow when it first came out, but I really dig it now. I have the first Alcatraz album, so to find this one is really good. Looking for their third one now, which again had a different guitarist whose name escapes me, but each of the three albums sounds different from each other, so I think that's probably why they never made it bigger than they did. But still, this is a really good pickup for what I paid for it, so very happy to get that. I didn't expect to show that one. Next up, um, Nuclear Assault. This one's, it's not a flexi disc. It's I've just been listening to it. So this is the Plague. This is Nuclear Assault's. It's a mini album, really. I guess more of an EP than an album, from 1987 on the Under One Flag labels. This is the UK pressing. Their second album, second release after Game Over. It's got some good songs in it though. Side 2 is really good with the Justice, the Plague, and Cross of Iron. There's a very interesting song there called Buttfuck, and that is a tribute. Well, actually, it's not a tribute. It's more of a so it's basically about Vince Neil, who the Motley Crue singer, who through a drunk drive incident ended up killing the Hanoi Rocks drummer Razzle, and managed to escape any jail sentence whatsoever. Just got community service. So this is their song, basically saying that he really should have gone to prison and received the punishment that the song title calls out for while in prison. But this is it's Nuclear Assault. It's kind of fun thrash metal, but it's also good thrash metal as well. So this is a great addition to the collection. I think this was on plain white inner. And last but not least, the band I've been looking out for a while, but again don't see very often. That's Rage, and this is Execution Guaranteed. So Rage are a German speed metal band, kind of in the vein of Gravedigger. Yeah, this is their second album on Noise International label, so same label as what Halloween were on. It's a really good album. I really like it, although it's the only Rage album I've heard to date. So whether it's a great Rage album or not, I hope to discover in future as I find more of their stuff. Got Rudy Graff on guitars, who played on the first couple of Warlock albums as well. But yeah, some German speed metal to finish off today's video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about these pickups, and I'll be back again soon with some more 80s ads to the collection. Thanks for watching.